Welcome to a greatest hits edition of Kent Hance, the best storyteller in Texas podcast. We've pulled out some of our favorite stories from the past few years and put them into one episode. We would appreciate it if you would hit the like and subscribe button, and if you don't mind, leaving a positive review. Those reviews really help us get the podcast out to more people. Enjoy the greatest hits edition of Kent Hance, the best storyteller in Texas.
Today, I'm going to talk about Robert O. Anderson. Robert O. Anderson started out in Roswell, New Mexico. He and Demi Moore are the two most famous people to come from Roswell. She lived in a trailer house there, and I think he lived in a pretty nice house. And that they also, the UFO guy was from Roswell. And I one time was going through Roswell when they had the UFO convention. And I just stopped and went in and looked around and talked to some of the people, and there are some unusual people there. And you could, for $5, you could sign a wall. And that's what, well, people, you know, in case UFO, we want to leave them a message. And one of them said, please bring John back. We miss him so much. Signed, Jane. You know, I didn't know what that was about.
Right.
But that was in Roswell, and they had the 50th anniversary in Roswell, and they recorded more rear-end collisions that night than ever before because everybody was looking up in the sky to see if another UFO was going to be up there, and somebody would stop in front of them, they'd rear-end them. So if you go to the UFO convention in Roswell, be sure and don't be looking up while you're driving. I was checking in baggage last year, and one of the few times I was flying and checked baggage, and the guy in front of me was rude. She handled it well. I told her after he left, I said, he said bad things to you. I mean, I'm not talking about being kind of rude. I'm talking about 100%. Mm-hmm. And I said, how you just kept a smile on your face. How'd you do that? She said, well, he's going to Austin. His bags are going to Toronto. And I liked it. I said, that's good, lady. You know, it's good. I always try, if somebody's in the service industry, I want to try to get along with them. There was a guy in high school named Jamie. He ran around with a guy named Bud. And Jamie had a nickname of Monk. And one time Bud told him in English class, Mrs. Merritt's English class. Mrs. Merritt had never been married. She was probably in her 50s, and we thought she was 90. Mm-hmm. But her children and her dedication were the students. And so Bud told Jamie, he bet him $1 he wouldn't jump out the window head first. And he went down, and he just went running down the aisle and jumped out this open window and landed a bunch of bushes, and he came back in. When he came back in, she never broke her teaching, what she was on, and he walked in, and she said, Jamie, I can't teach you if you're going to be jumping out the window, and just kept on going. And politicians, you know, somebody that's on the early train, they'll take people on the late train, but the early train people are, mm-hmm. You know, if you're out there doing whatever, whether it's a contributor or walking door to door or whatever, if you're doing that in an early campaign, they're going to remember it. You know, I had the event in Andrews, Texas one time where only one person showed up to my reception, and his name was Dan Newbro. And I remember it to this day. Mm-hmm. He's the only guy there. It's pretty easy to remember his name. You know, I saw him, and they introduced me to him. I had an introduction prepared. It's pretty good. And the county judge, later county judge, Gary introduced me, and he said, Kent, this is Dan. Dan, this is Kent. And, you know, he didn't get into resume or anything. And I said, Dan, good to see you. Is there anyone out in the car? I thought maybe somebody would be out in the car. But what happened, we were at the utility company was Texas Electric at that time, and they had their offices, and next to it, part of it, they had a community room that you could rent for almost nothing if you wanted to have a reception or whatever. And so he came in the wrong door. We wouldn't have had anyone, you know. And he came in the wrong door, and came in. When he did, we grabbed him. We were going to let him get away, and he was going to pay his light bill. Wound up in a political event, and I took him over to the newspaper, and we got our pictures made. so that they put it in the paper the next week. Some of those attending were, and they mentioned all three of us, and they could have said all of those attending and would have been just as accurate.
That goes back to something you said, how politics can be humbling.
Yeah, it is. It can be. I had the opportunity when I was running for Congress to have a fundraiser in Odessa. A friend of mine, Barney Jones, who since passed on, was a highway contractor, and he was going to help us. And he allowed us to use his home. And a staff member for me, a guy named Ricky Knox, who was very creative, one of the most creative persons I've ever known, and has done extremely well. And if any of you still know Ricky, he's got plenty of money. He can loan you a little money if you find him.
I'm sure he appreciates that.
Yeah, he'll like that. But he did the invitation, and we got the leadership of Odessa to sign on, that they were going to be for me, and nice invitation, everything. And so the girl that was working on catering and everything like that had talked to Ricky, and she's talking to Barney Jones, and Barney told us, said, my house will handle 150, 200 people. And so she made a comment, well, I hope they all don't show up. And he said, 200 people? We can handle. And she said, no, he invited 25,000. I said, what? And he had invited 25,000 people, and Barney just went through the roof. He said, they'll tear my house up. He'll be parking on the grass, my neighbors, and we can't handle that many people. What are we going to do? And so I called Ricky to jump about, and he said, look, I planned it the same time that the Dallas Cowboys are playing the Eagles. It's on Monday night, Monday night football, same time, and we charge a minimum $100. And he said, the key is people get those invitations, they'll see the leadership supporting us, and that'll help us. But there won't be 200 people show up. And I think it came out around 160. For weeks, everywhere I went in Odessa, people say, hey, I'm sorry I missed the fundraiser. I was tied up or something like that. But Barney almost died of a heart attack thinking they were going to have 25,000 people. In politics, if you're going to have an event and you think there's going to be 50 people there, then you get a room for about 30 or 40. I think back in the presidential campaign, Romney had an event with the leadership of Detroit and the manufacturers, car manufacturers and everything. And they had it at Ford Field where the Detroit Lions play. And it holds 70, 80,000 people. They had about 10,000 people, but it looked like no one was there. Mm-hmm. And you want it to look like that people are fighting to get in. Mm-hmm. It goes back to on the Boone Pickens funeral, how proud he'd be that people had to have a ticket to get in. And the only thing that made him prouder if they'd been scalping those tickets out there.
Thank you very much for listening. A reminder that we put out new episodes every Monday and that you can follow us on Instagram at Best Storyteller Podcast.